The enemy of photography is the convention, the fixed rules of how to do. Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. Today, Tessa and I will have a closer look at this KMZ Zenitar-M 50mm f1.7. We will test its performance and give it the CLV score at the end. But let's begin with its features and handling. The lens was introduced in 1977 and is only available in M42 mount. There's a slightly modified version, the Zenitar-M E1, which has an aperture with only 2 blades, so that the aperture opening is a square. While that might be interesting to collectors, the bokeh it produces looks terrible. It has 6 elements in 5 groups. The aperture closes down to f16 and clicks at every half stop, except between f11 and f16. It has 6 blades, the minimum focus distance is 45 cm, and the filter diameter is 52 mm. Its weight is about 275 grams. There is also an AM switch, in case the adapter you're using doesn't press down the aperture pin. The aperture ring clicks into place very distinctly, but it's also a bit stiff. The focus ring doesn't feel particularly smooth, and sometimes it also slips, meaning its resistance changes. I don't know if this is a common issue with this lens. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. But still, there's enough range to still hit the target accurately, since the focus throw is 240 degrees. We will be testing the lens on a Sony A7III and this Fuji GFX50S. On the Fuji, it's equivalent to a full-frame lens with a focal length of about 40 mm and a maximum aperture of f1.4. We begin with distortion and vignetting using this Adobe camera calibration chart. There's quite noticeable barrel distortion and also vignetting visible. However, the latter is virtually gone at f4. You can correct distortion and vignetting in your editing software, of course, but you could also use the correction profiles I offer for download on my Patreon page. The link is in the description. This is the test for lateral chromatic aberration, which is visible but relatively subtle. Unfortunately, longitudinal chromatic aberration are on the stronger side, and slight traces are still visible at f8. Here we're looking for chromatic aberration in the focal plane. We see purple fringing along contrast edges at f1.7, and when we stop down a bit to f2, some of it is still visible. Starting at f2.8, the image is free of it. One nice thing is that the lens covers the GFX sensor almost entirely. Only slightly darkened corners are visible, though they are also quite smudgy. What's not so nice, however, is that the barrel distortion is now even more noticeable. On the Sony, in our sharpness at infinity test, we see that we already have very good sharpness at f1.7 and in the center. However, the contrast is quite low, and still a bit low at f2. Starting at f2.8 though, we see a very sharp and clear image. At f11 and f16, however, sharpness decreases again. Unfortunately, the area between the center and the corner doesn't look as good. We don't achieve very good sharpness here until f5.6. And as we move further into the corner, the image quality gets even worse. It's not until f11 that the image becomes very sharp. Here we are testing sharpness at minimum focus distance. In the center of the image, we see a result similar to that at infinity. Even at f1.7, sharpness is very good, but contrast is low, also a bit at f2. After that, the image looks very good, until it starts to deteriorate again at f11. Unfortunately again, the corners are noticeably worse. The image only looks quite good at f16. Sharpness at a typical portrait distance reflects what we've already seen. Slightly soft at f1.7 and f2, then very good, and a bit softer again starting at f11. Let's take a look at the bokeh on the GFX. With the aperture wide open, it's beautifully creamy, though it does get slightly squashed in the corners due to optical vignetting. And when we stop down the aperture, we also see the angular aperture opening on highlights. At longer focusing distances, and especially with the GFX, the noticeable field curvature also becomes apparent. In our tests for coma and sunstars, noticeable astigmatism is evident at f1.7 and f2. However, it is under control starting at f2.8. And starting at f4, sunstars begin to form, which look okay, but somewhat frayed. To show you how the lens performs in real life, here are some pictures I took with it, mounted on the Fuji. And just like in the last episode, they are also from Reykjavik. Enjoy! Welcome back in Berlin. Now it's time for the CLV score. For handling and features, it's a 6. For aberrations, also a 6. Its sharpness is a 5. The bokeh gets a 7, but the sunstars only a 5. You can find a used copy for around 50 to 100 euro, which is a nice 8. 37 out of 60 points. Well, that just goes to show once again that sharpness in the center isn't everything. Thanks for watching everyone, and please consider liking and subscribing.